Welcome to Law Next PR, the podcast where we put a spotlight on the latest news coming out of the legal tech industry. This is Bob Ambrogi, and in each episode of Law Next PR, I interview a legal tech company about its latest news and developments. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with an old friend, Jonah Paransky, who has just been named Chief Executive Officer of Assembly Software, a leading legal tech company for plaintiff law firms. Jonah, welcome to the show.
Bob, it's a true pleasure to be here. It's very exciting to be reconnecting here on the show today.
It's great to see you. I haven't seen you for a few years because you kind of left the legal tech world for a few years, and you're coming back. But congratulations on this.
Thank you. It's very exciting to be back. I've always been a multi-verticalized business-to-business specialist, and so I've always done almost my entire career has been vertical software, and most of that time has been in legal, but I've been in other verticals as well, in marketing technology and information security, in hospitality. And so for me, it feels very much like coming back home. I really built my leadership career in legal tech businesses. And so coming back is very exciting to me, especially I think this is a very interesting time for legal tech. And so coming back now is exciting as well.
Yeah. Well, why don't you just before we get into what you're doing now, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background and where you've been prior to coming back to Assembly?
Absolutely. So if you look at my background, the first half of my career, I was a product management and marketing functional leader of B2B software businesses, primarily in the information security and IT operations spaces. And so that was my first half of my career arc. And then when my career broadened out to focus on leading software businesses end to end, I actually found myself at LexisNexis. And so back in 2009, I took a role leading the LexisNexis small law practice management business. I then led the LexisNexis CounselLink business, and then an opportunity to lead the broader business of law software group at LexisNexis, which included both small law practice management, CounselLink enterprise legal management, the software that corporate legal teams use to manage their day-to-day operations and outside counsel spend, as well as Lexis's large law marketing technology platform, as well as a infrastructure IT operation business they had at the time. And so that was a 6-7 year long experience at Lexis. I then took a couple years outside of legal tech to lead the market's, at the time, largest cloud deployed property management system for hotels. So that's the software that when you check into a hotel, it's the software behind the desk that they use to operate the hotel. Mm-hmm. And then I went back into legal tech as EVP and GM at Wolters Kluwer for the Wolters Kluwer ELM Solution business, which, as you know, is a leader in the space of software that focuses on helping corporate legal teams manage day-to-day operations and outside counsel spend. Did that for 4 years. And then after that, went to a private equity-backed software business as CEO in the marketing technology space called Crown Peak for a couple years. Great experience there. And then most recently was at an organization called the Access Group, which is the largest private equity backed business you probably haven't heard of. They are the largest privately held software business in the UK. And I was brought in to help them grow in the Americas over the last couple of years as well. And so while I was there, we built out a large vertical focus in hospitality.
And it was when you were at Wolters Kluwer that I last spoke to you, I assume. I don't recall bumping into you since then, but possibly we did. But you were just telling me before we started recording, you've been at Assembly officially on the job for all of about a week at this point. But I'm curious about what it was about this opportunity, about this company that brought you back into legal.
Yeah, so I think I have to start probably, Bob, with market. So I think this is as you're immersed in every day, and I'm getting used to again, this is an incredibly interesting time for legal tech. I think we're seeing more change and more acceleration in legal tech organizations than we saw for years. I think many of us had a feeling for a long time that the legal tech market, while interesting, was slow to change. There wasn't enormous disruption. And I think that we're seeing, driven by, frankly, the applicability of AI to solving for the real work that law firms do, that their attorneys do, and that members of their team do, that we're seeing this acceleration of pace of change in the marketplace. And that, to me, got me really interested in legal tech again. I had an opportunity over the last set of years to keep my toe in legal tech because I've been an industrial advisor for a private equity firm called EQT. So I had an opportunity to look at a number of potential investments for them that was keeping me involved in the market. What I think is really interesting about Assembly, and the real reason at the end of the day why I'm here, is because I think it sits in a really uniquely interesting position in the market, right? I think in particular, where much but not all of where Assembly plays is in plaintiff law. You have a separation today between emerging AI vendors who are solving for the work that plaintiff law firms do and how AI can solve for those problems, and the traditional workflow vendors that are solving for the process by which that work gets done. And for me, what's super exciting about Assembly is the ability to bring those two things together in a frictionless kind of great experience for customers.
So Assembly has Neos case management platform, NeosAI, which it launched just about a year ago or something. I think
Correct.
it was. That is its AI offers a number of AI capabilities, pretty much embedded in the Neos platform. As you just kind of said, the legal tech world has evolved quite a bit over the last couple of years because of AI. What are the opportunities, I think, for Neos to better serve its market through that technology?
Yeah, so a couple things. I think one of the things that has me very excited about this space is I think that we're still in inning one of what will be a long game around how law firms change how they operate based on how the tooling works. But I think the first thing is I think that the incentives are clearer inside of the plaintiff world and in other worlds where the billable hour isn't the core economic model that the firm is built around. I think we're going to see some real challenges, and I think we've already started to see them, between how doing work with AI and your economic model being selling hours is going to interact in ways that are actually super challenging to figure out. What I like about this part of the market is that model challenge doesn't exist. And if I'm a plaintiff firm at the end of the day, if I can be more efficient with my work, I can either go help plaintiffs get better outcomes on one hand, so I can scale, or I can be more efficient in my operations, and these sort of economic issues don't come up. So I think there's better vendor customer alignment in this market than there are in other parts of the legal space today, although I think that'll evolve over time. If I look at the problems we can solve, I think the list is almost unlimited. I generally split them into two categories. I think there's an opportunity for AI to accelerate in the firm the use of the workflow. It's about taking a workflow solution and making it more magical in its experience. So historically, if you're in a workflow solution and you would want to look at a case, right? You would have to write your own case summary. You'd have to, anytime anything changed in that case, somebody in your firm would have to update the case summary so that when you looked at the case, you knew where it was. That's a great use case for AI, right? Thinking about automating the workflows that your firm uses, great use case for AI. All of that is about accelerating workflow outcomes, and I think that is a tremendous opportunity in this space. That's the first one. The second is, with AI now, there is an opportunity to help the law firm get more work done as opposed to just accelerating workflow. So if you're a plaintiff firm, that's about demand letters and medical chronologies and the deliverables that are at the core of what your business does and how you can use AI to best leaven into those deliverables, I think is the second best opportunity. And I think both of those are super strong and very exciting. And I think that the Assembly organization and team is really positioned in a very exciting place to be able to drive great customer outcomes, both in, I don't have a great form for it, but sort of deliverable AI and workflow AI at the same time.
Neos comes from a kind of a long-established heritage of products. The combination of Needles and Trialworks led to kind of Assembly and what it is today, and those products have been around for a long time. Something that's really changed, I think, in the plaintiff's space over the last couple of years has been this new generation of AI-based companies serving that market. There's been a number of new startups just in the last couple of years that are focused on that market. How does Assembly continue to distinguish itself, continue to stand out in that market?
Yeah, so a couple things, right? I think that those new vendors are coming to this market and doing incredibly interesting and important work, right? And I think they found a tremendous opportunity for plaintiff firms to focus on this question of really how can AI leaven your workforce, right? To get more work done and to really take some of that burden off your team, right? For either scaling or efficiency purposes. I think I think, though, the reality is today that you have traditionally workflow vendors on one side, and then you have these AI deliverable vendors on the other. And I think the magic over time is going to be combining those two things together. If I'm a law firm, I believe that I would rather have a frictionless experience where I'm working in a system on a case, it knows everything about the case, and then the AI solution that's building the deliverables, right, like those vendors are really focused on today, right, is embedded in that workflow, right? And it is tightly coupled and it has all the information that the firm has. And you don't have to take your information about the case and move it to a different system and then process it somewhere else and then bring it back. It's all part of one great experience that's provided by teams to the customers. And I think that's the assembly opportunity. But it has a great responsibility, right? We're going to need to provide the kinds of outcomes that those competitors are providing today. And in my 6 days here so far, I'm seeing the right team with the right capabilities to be able to drive that vision over time, which gets me very excited about our future.
Yeah. You've been talking a lot about the opportunities that you see both for yourself and for the company as you step into this role. But given some of the concerns about generative AI in general, given the fact that in some corners, at least of the legal profession, pickup and adoption of some of these generative AI tools has not been as speedy as you might expect. What do you see as the challenges that you face as you step into this role?
Yeah, so the most important thing is going to be trust from our users. At the end of the day, I think the biggest risk with AI solutions is, should I trust them, or are they going to cause me what I would describe in other verticals as compliance issues? And in legal, I would describe them as, right, as sort of bar ethical requirement challenges, right? Which is, at the end of the day, can I trust the solution enough that I believe that the outputs it's giving me that I'm then going to use on behalf of my customers are trustworthy? And I think where we're going to see a lot of the innovation in this space is focusing on, how do I look at something AI creates and know it's true? I think that's the most important question. And I think that all the vendors in this space are going to struggle with, how do I know it's true? And how do I make it as easy as possible to use the solution? And I think the winners in this space will be able to combine those two questions together effectively. What I think makes Plaintiff different than the rest of the legal market in tools is that the question you don't have to answer is, and if I do that, can I still make money? I think that some of the slowest adoption elsewhere in the market is being driven actually by existential economic questions and not necessarily by tooling. But to be clear, I still think that if I'm a law firm and I'm just going to buy an off-the-shelf, inexpensive $30 a month LLM package and think that it's right for my vertical software use, I'm probably making a mistake if I want to stay compliant in our space.
Yeah.
Right? I just think that it is too hard to ensure that you don't get other things bleeding into truth in a way that means that you're going to lose the advantages of using the technology. And I think that's where staying with solutions that are growing up inside of the legal tech world really have significant advantages.
Yeah. Of course, the plaintiffs market doesn't have that same kind of concern around, is this going to be the death of the billable hour? Because plaintiffs
Correct.
lawyers largely don't bill by the hour, right?
Correct. And I think that actually taking the billable hour question off the table, right? Because you're a plaintiff firm where you don't bill by the billable hour, or you're an insurance defense firm, for example, right, that does fixed price contracts on their deliverables. If you can take the economics away, you can actually explore the technology helping you. I think right now, in much of the discussion we're seeing in the market in the billable hour world, there's a lot of FUD that is all circling around a fundamental question we haven't answered yet, which is the answer to what's going to happen to the billable hour, which is getting in the way of the value questions around the tooling, frankly.
Yeah. So, what are your goals for Assembly? What's Assembly gonna? What are your goals to accomplish over the next year, couple of years? How is Assembly going to evolve over that time?
Yeah. So over the next year, my aspiration is that we clearly manage to crack the nut around, how do you combine workflow and AI together to drive great outcomes for our customers. And I think that right now things are moving quickly enough and we're positioned in the right place that you and I should be able to get together 12 months from now and say, all right, did we manage to really crack that nut open or not? Is that going in the right direction? That's number one. I think number two, we're at a time that any company who isn't thinking about how things like AI tooling may change how they work are missing what is probably taking a step back out of legal tech, the largest transformation in how software companies do their work we're going to see. And I think at Assembly, we have a tremendous opportunity to think not only around how are we using these tools for our customers, but how are we using them ourselves to drive better customer experiences and better customer outcomes, and really think about how we're accelerating the capabilities of our team members to do that. And so I think over the next year, we're going to see both of those stories play out at the same time.
Yeah. Does Assembly continue its focus on the plaintiffs market? I mean, as you mentioned, it's not exclusively in the plaintiffs market, but that's been largely its focus. Do you stay that course, or do you see it evolving in any way in that regard?
So I think the current market is interesting. I'm 6 days in, so none of this is, I think, where we could land. I'll have a much better vision of this in the weeks and months to come,
Sure.
and we'll communicate that vision back to the market. But my early thesis right now is that we're seeing many of the plaintiff players in the space very quickly trying to go as broad as possible in the marketplace, out of plaintiff and focusing on a wide variety of law firms. And I think there is a pretty interesting opportunity for us to decide where we want to knit and stick to our knitting. And I don't have a clear answer yet of exactly what that knitting is. But I think that great vertical software businesses pick where they're going to play and go as deep as possible in the places they play so as to delight customers at a really deep and nuanced level. And that's how you win in markets. That's a sort of philosophy of mine in terms of how you win in software. And so I expect that you'll see Assembly getting more and more focused on those places where we think we can provide the most value to our customers, and being pretty clear in places where we think that we might not be the best answer to any potential law firm's problem. Because the promise of value is, if you're going to pick us, you trust you can run your firm using our software. And we have to be the right fit for you, and you have to be the right fit for us. And the more we can be clear about that, I think the better off we all are. But give us a couple of weeks, Bob, and we can have this conversation again around really where we're declaring our focus.
All right. Well, we'll take you up on that. I've been peppering you with questions. Anything else that you'd like to say?
I think for me, this is a tremendous opportunity to join a great organization. It's an organization that has had tremendous leadership to get to where it's been today. The number of legacy solution providers with 40 years of history, with long track records of great customers and great premise-based solutions who haven't made the turn to today, right? You and I could spend 20 minutes talking about the list of legal tech firms who haven't made it. And I think the work the team has done to get us here today, to get a cloud-based practice management solution that spikes in the plaintiff and other spaces, I think is an incredible success for the organization. And for me, what's really exciting is to come in at this tremendously interesting inflection point and help take us forward as an organization, to work with the team and work with our customers to take that next step forward. And I think if we have customers, for example, who are watching us here together today, know that I'm looking forward to spending time with you, understanding you more, and that our commitment to your success is ironclad. That's how we win in the medium and long, right? But delighting our customers and having great engaged employees. And I'm looking forward on working on both of those areas in the weeks and months to come.
Well, Jonah, I'm glad to see you back in the legal space, and congratulations on this new role that you've taken on, and just good to see you. Thanks for doing this today.
Thank you so much, Bob. It's been a pleasure.
That's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or you can find us on YouTube at LawNext_PR. This is Bob Ambrogi. Thanks for joining us today.